Now, to all y'all subscribers of the Afterlife theory, right? I feel like this one needs all of y'all coming closer to the screen right quick. Y'all let me know what you actually think happens after somebody dies. You know what I'm saying? It's a very interesting topic that I would grapple with from time to time. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when I'm bored, just to see if I can come up with a interesting theory that'll have me, I don't know, feeling a little confident about the afterlife. Sometimes I just go back and forth, on the idea based off of just like what to choose to be afraid of, or what to choose not to be afraid of. What to establish as real, and what to dismiss. You feel what I'm saying? It's a deep layered topic, and I'm interested to get into it. Right? Let's do it.
Now walking with the Nina, I do think that karma's a great teacher. Cause what you get, you take some fuck away a feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either. It's how awareness my body.
Yes, boys and girls. Yeah. Shadow work in the background, y'all. And right here, right, we're zooming into the Afterlife tier list. Duncan Clark, give it up. New entry, by the way, Duncan Clark. I don't know, that display picture right there. It's giving what you call this, AI. But Duncan Clark, y'all, seems legit. Let's find out, right?
Do we continue to exist after the death of the body?
That's the
and
greatest
if we do,
question.
What would that look?
That's the greatest question of all time. Hold on, let me just switch my shit up so we're good to go, and boom.
I'm not suggesting that I know the answer to this question, and I also don't want to disparage any religious beliefs that help people come to terms with death. That's not really my bag.
What are you trying to do?
This video is just going to be analyzing some of the possibilities and trying to figure out whether they're good or bad.
Yep. Okay, let's do it. Nothing.
You die, and that's it. Nothing. You cease to exist. Death is the permanent end of experience. Eternal nothingness. This is the most straightforward scenario. Death is the end of life.
Alright, so, okay, no. First of all, let me just come out with, like, my own theory. My own, just idea of what I also think happens. But now, since the cat is out the bag, yes, I do share I share in the sentiment that nothing happens. Yeah, we go back to nothingness. But then now, what makes that kind of exploration interesting is what we define as nothingness. You know what I'm saying? Considering everything, because at the same time I am a realist, right? So I do consider everything that is in existence. You understand what I'm saying? And just existence in general, being part of everything that does exist. And when we I feel like, now this is my subjective view, when we dive deep into everything that is in existence, everything in its eternal aspect, right, where it's like everything that never ends, even when we're talking numbers, even when we're talking esoteric senses, I don't know, just perceptions, you know what I'm saying, fantasies, whatever, everything in its entirety. Obviously one mind, physical mind, mine's and yours physically, right, we wouldn't be able to fathom the concept or the idea of eternity. You know what I mean? But I feel like since that's shapeless and formless, and I'm talking everything inclusive, you understand what I'm saying? It has no shape, it has no form, it's nothing. Boom, it's nothing. So I may consider that as nothingness, like the never ending potential possibility of existence, right? That would be my version of nothing. You know what I mean? So now when we like, yo, we return back to nothingness, we return back to, right, you piece that dot together, we return to that whole we return to eternity, man. Okay, at least that's my little idea, you know what I mean? So now another person can think of nothingness and just like see a black hole, or just like some blackness, or I don't know. Since Valley, that is the general idea of, you know, what nothingness is represented by, right? Color wise. Like, yo, close your eyes, what do you see? Nothing, and it's just black. It's actually not black. Yeah, it's something else, it's not black.
So the idea that there is life after death is obviously false. Our fear of death is biologically programmed into us, and to an extent it's unavoidable. But maybe philosophy can help us reason our way out of this situation.
Let's see.
Is death bad? Well, you might say that someone dying is bad, because they're not around anymore.
Right.
That person was there, and now they're not.
So
but I don't think this is actually...
So like, as in it's bad, as in it's a negative experience. Right? Like you're going through it from the loss of this individual.
Key to the badness here. Let me hit you with this thought experiment. Let's say your best friend in the whole world is this guy George.
Okay, George, how are you?
Spent years studying astrophysics.
Nice one.
And he's about to go on an expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy to do research there for the rest of his life.
To do it.
You can't follow him there, and once he leaves, there will be no way to communicate with him ever again. That's a bit of a bummer. But now, let's say that instead of leaving, the rocket George is taking explodes immediately after launching, killing him instantly. The outcome is the same from your perspective. George is gone, and you'll never see him again. But the situation where the rocket explodes definitely seems worse. So the issue isn't just...
Yo. Shit. I know we are so early into the video, and this is like, yo, multiple freaking pauses. Look, forgive me. You know, the one thing that I wonder a lot, right? And the one thing that I am nervous about when it comes to dying, not like death, but like dying, how it all ends, so to speak, right? What has me wondering the most, and what has me sort of kind of nervous, is just, I don't know, man, the sensation, right? Not even the sensation, but the perception, the sight, the feeling of that moment when, let's say, the body completely disintegrates, and you're probably involved in one of those, like, yeah, just like the example of your best friend right here, right? So from his point of view, what sensations is he feeling? Like, what emotion is there to that? Like, at what moment when the explosion happens and he literally feels every aspect of his body just separating, right? Like to you are the best friend. You're like, yo, you said, yeah, you're feeling the regular thing. I'm talking about, what is the best friend that just like, whose body just bursted open? Like, what is he, like, what's the feeling in his reality? Like, what's his real experience at that moment, right? When that rocket blows up like that. And does his soul, consciousness, whatever, leave his body before his body gets to blowing up into pieces and blah blah, or does it happen after the fact? So does he feel all those sensations of pain or whatever, or does he die, you know, from the shock of, oh shit, I'm about to die, right? So it's these kind of like thoughts that have me like, yo, I just hope my shit is like fast and soft, man, sweet, you know what I'm saying? Well, not necessarily fast, because if it's sweet, it's kind of like you're enjoying the whole thing, like you switching off, you dying, you know what I'm saying? So like, yo, like my shit, like I'm telling you, my shit is finna be like the sweetest ever, bro. My transition, oh my god, I feel like I'm finna pass on before my body does. Facts. However that looks like, or at least like I'd like to go out like that. You know what I'm saying? Like in your sleep, bro. Like chilled as fuck. Like you tired from a long day, maybe spending time with like your loved ones. You know what I mean? giving all of them love and blessings. And, you know, one of those ones where you know you're going, but like them last days, bro, like even your loved ones testify that, yo, that nigga like had nothing but a smile on his face like for the past 5 days before he passed. You know what I'm saying? I feel like at that point, like you will have understood like really what's up. You will have made peace with the reality you think, right, you're about to face, I think. Rather than one of these violent ones where it's like, fuck, like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, crazy accident, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
Just that George isn't around anymore. There's something important about the fact that George died.
What?
Okay, so instead of thinking about George, let's think about me. Death is bad because I won't exist anymore. And personally, I really like existing. Existing is pretty epic.
That's you?
Is it bad for me, though? When I'm dead, I won't exist. So who would it be bad for?
Exactly. The ones that are behind, bro.
It's easy to think that when we die, we enter into a kind of blackness, or void, and we place ourselves into it. It's as if we sink into this pit of nothingness, and we're trapped there forever. We end up in this strange realm, with no thoughts, no sensations, no experience, and this is something that we somehow witness for eternity. But this doesn't really make sense. This is reifying nothingness.
Okay.
The comedian Norm Macdonald once said,
and then I came to a realization that you and death will never intersect. As long as you're here, death is not. As long as death is there,
you're not. Okay.
Yeah, but since you know it's coming.
Oh, but you don't want that.
He got this idea from the Greek philosopher Epicurus, who had a similar quote. So death, the most terrifying of ills, is nothing to us, since so long as we exist, death is not with us. But when death comes, then we do not exist. It does not concern either the living or the dead, since for the former it is not, and for the latter are no more. Okay, but does it actually have to be bad for me for it to still be bad? Things can be bad in different ways. Putting my hand on a hot stove is bad because I'm experiencing the pain and the badness directly. Burning my hand is immediately and intrinsically bad. But let's consider a different scenario. Let's say I spend my evening scrolling TikTok. The whole time I'm mildly entertained. It's a neutral experience. But what if my friends had also invited me out that night? I was scrolling TikTok alone in my room, instead of cracking a few cold ones with the boys, which would have been way more fun. That time I spent scrolling wasn't intrinsically bad, but it was bad compared to what I could have been doing instead. This example illustrates the deprivation.
So it was bad based off of the principle of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Count of why death might be bad.
Right?
Not existing isn't bad in an inherent way, but it's bad compared to all the fun, meaningful experiences I could have.
That you're missing out on.
If I continue to exist. Okay, but let's take this non-existing thing a little further. What if I never existed in the first place? Would this be bad? Well, it seems bad for me because I do exist now, but this runs into some major problems.
Yeah, like as in if you've never existed before, like what's bad about it? No, all the things that, you know, all the fun things that you could experience while being here, but I never was here, so what's actually bad about me being there in the first place? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not even missing out on anything in the first place. Duncan Clark, ladies and gentlemen, what?
Think about all the possible people that could exist. Let's look at our current generation right now. Let's say there are about 5 billion people who could reproduce,
Right.
half men and half women.
Cool.
Each man could technically create a new person with each woman.
Yep.
And beyond that, every single egg-sperm combination of each of those pairs would also create a different person.
Right.
If a different sperm won the race, I wouldn't be the same person I am now.
Yeah.
I would be my sibling. As a rough calculation, that's 2.5 billion women times 30 years of reproduction times 12 eggs times 2.5 billion men times 50 years of reproduction times a conservative 365 ejaculations per year times about 40 million sperm per ejaculation. That works out to this number, 15 with 32 zeros. And this is still only
15 with 32 zeros. That's what the
a
number,
tiny
right?
fraction. All of those potential people could also have children with each other. This could go on for potential generation after potential generation. If the deprivation account is true, you have to feel sorry for this infinite amount of people who never got the chance to exist.
Oh, yeah.
That seems like a bit too much emotional labor for me. Okay, but we can just fix this by adjusting the deprivation account a little bit. Instead of a deprivation of life, it's a deprivation of a life that actually existed at some point. This seems to have filled the hole I just poked in the argument. But there's still a problem. The section of time after your death isn't the only section of time you don't exist. You also don't exist before you're born. But who really cares about that? If you told me that I'm only going to live to age 50, I would be bummed out, and I would wish that I could live longer.
Why?
But I don't wish that I was born 50 years earlier. We seem to care more about existing in the future than existing in the past. So to sum things up, not
Even more than existing in the present. A lot of people are concerned about the future. There's even, like, I'd say there's even, a number that's just as high as people who are concerned about the future. People who are concerned about the past too. That's why a lot of people, because I feel like that could be the cause of a whole lot of depressed minds, depressed people. People are just living in the past a lot.
non-existence after death is a
But the future one, yeah. That's a lot.
complicated issue. Personally, I'm sympathetic to the deprivation account. I like existing a lot. But this is also the perspective of a guy who exists, which is definitely biased.
Okay, cool. So now, are you able to tap into the aspect of you that never existed? Try pull up that memory. Saying, okay, do I then have anything to compare this existing version of me with? You know what I mean? Because obviously you're gonna be like, yo, it's everybody that exists, for the most part, is gonna say, yes, existing. I prefer existing. I'd rather exist, continue existing. But then, you know what I'm saying? Like, where's the aspect of you that never existed so that you can have, like, a comparison point?
I'll put nothingness in B tier.
Heaven.
Ranking heaven in a video like this is a little tricky. Religions that describe a heavenly realm are usually pretty vague about what it's actually like there.
Yep.
It's described as this perfect, beautiful place
Right.
with no pain and suffering, where we can live in bliss and worship God for eternity. But is this kind of immortality something we actually want? The deprivation account might say yes. Not existing is bad, because you'll miss all the fun. So if we live forever, that would be ideal. Well, not exactly. At a certain point, there might not actually be anything interesting for existence to give you. You wouldn't be deprived of anything.
Yep.
Imagine a classic idea of heaven. We all turn into angels and spend eternity singing psalms together or something.
Now, you know why that actually will not happen? It's because you'll find, a few people up there, right? With that whole gathering happening. People that will now turn woke and just now question the whole agenda of everybody just worshipping this supreme being. It'll just hit them out of nothing. They'll be like, no, actually, why do we even have to do this? This is oppression. No, this is misogyny. No, why is he the only one? No, I also want to, you know what I'm saying? And then you have a whole crowd of just probably, females for the most part. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe even males that are like, man, yeah, I get the fact that, we're all males here, but nah, I feel like I wanna transition. Bro, come on. You know what I'm saying, though? For as long as, because now we do have to consider free will as a thing. You understand what I'm saying? So now you telling me the people that are up there worshiping for eternity are gonna be so deprived of their free will that that's all that they'll have to do? No, because now it'll go against, God's creation of free will. Like the reality of the fact that he created human being to have free will, quote unquote, whatever that means though. But then, because now saying everybody will free willingly choose to worship for eternity, like, considering like the nature of how God created man, but it's like nothing, you don't do same thing for eternity. That's why even seasons change. Nature changes. You are nature, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's biologically, naturally just impossible for you to do the same thing for eternity. Feel me? So by the time you have chosen to, yes, I'm saying the reality of, free willingly choosing to worship, this God for eternity. Yes, that is a reality that may just happen, but then it's like by the time that happens, is it your free will? No, you're influenced by something, by the fact that if you don't, you're gonna burn in eternal fire. Like something is drawing you there. So is it really free will? Alright, my fault. The yap ends there.
Singing psalms is probably pretty fun to do for a while.
Okay.
But doing that for all of
That's
eternity...
what I'm saying. What am I talking about? Because this is it, right? Like, what?
He seems a little excessive.
Saying?
What kind of life would be worth living forever? This isn't just 100 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or 1,000,000,000 years. This existence has no end.
Oh.
There are some things I love doing. Eating lamb vindaloo, solving Minesweeper puzzles, listening to Beach House, whatever. But after the first 100,000 years of doing that, it would probably get a bit stale. Okay, well let's say you take a different approach, and you try to make the most of your time. You spend 1,000 years writing novels, 1,000 years painting. You learn how to play every single instrument at an expert level. You will always run out of things to do. At some point, you will have done it all. You might be able to fix this problem with some kind of amnesia system. Let's say you get bored after about 1,000 years of doing stuff.
What happens?
At this point, you start to lose your memories and forget what you did a few hundred years
ago. But like, don't the memories just like stack up to a point where like your brain just like dries and yeah, but like what is the capacity of the human like brain in terms of storage of memory and shit like that? Because I don't think I want to do the type of homework where, we find out whether 100-year-old people that have existed. There's people that have pushed to 100 years. That would have been capped. No, to 100 plus years, right? I wonder how their memories were like working after reaching that century mark, right? Of living.
Years ago. By the time you're at 2 billion years, you could barely remember what you spent your time doing as a young 100 million year old angel. At this point, you've changed completely. You have different tastes, a different personality, and you spend your time doing things that you wouldn't imagine doing before. But is this really worth it? There is continuity between the young angel me and the old angel me, but is it still really me? I don't even remember the previous me existing at all. My personality is totally different too. And I'm probably hanging out with different angel friends.
Probably.
I don't think I'd want something like this. Alright, but maybe instead of having to try to do interesting things or entertain yourself,
what would you do?
You just experience complete bliss for eternity.
Oh, shit.
Maximum pleasure. This seems appealing.
But even that would be redundant.
At first, but it also reminds me of something.
What?
There was a study where they attached electrodes to a rat's brain that released an intense burst of pleasure. They hooked this up to a button that the rat could press whenever it wanted.
But here's my thing with feeling bliss your whole life, right? Because another thing, it's that's also what religious texts and things like that be selling to people, or be directing towards people, right? Is the fact that an eternity of bliss, eternal life, things like this, right? Doesn't that also get redundant after a while? You get so, because look at where I'm coming from. You won't want to do shit else but just feel that. Now, when we're talking about people that feel nothing but pleasure, bro, let's also bring into the conversation crackheads. Know what I'm saying? People that just numb themselves with drugs, alter their state of consciousness to a point where the drugs has fucked up side effects from the outside looking in, but in their minds they're feeling this bliss that we're talking about, right? Or that people probably but they feel, because now another thing, why do they keep on going to these drugs? Why do they keep on going to these substances and shit? It gives them that feeling of bliss, when they escape into those sensations and getting high and all of that. That's that feeling. You know what I mean? Now consider a person that feels that constantly. You know what I'm saying? It's complete neglect of the body completely. Because these people, the what makes like a bum in the streets who's mad, addicted to a whole bunch of substances and all that kind of thing, just to keep themselves feeling happy and feeling, you know, like they're escaping the pressures and the matrix, whatever the reason, right? The fact that you see them still operating and they still come and ask for like a buck or two from you, or they want to come help you out so that you can give them a little change, spare change, whatever. The fact that they do that is because they're being sober. That feeling of bliss is going away. They start feel reality again. It's pressure, it's heavy, it's fuck, this, that, oh shit. I actually gotta eat and feed my body. It's like, yo, now imagine if they was on that kind of sensation for eternity. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucker, like, yo, I wouldn't know how to put it, but like, you probably start seeing the bacteria chewing through the clothes, bruh. That's how maybe their bodies would be so molded because they don't even take no baths. Nigga, they wouldn't even stand up from the position they at. Like, oh my god, I don't know. They'd be so lazy to even like scratch an itch that's just like, you know, on their knee or some shit. Like, they wouldn't like get to any of that because the sensations, they're so unbothered. So basically the feeling of just like eternal bliss, that's an out of body experience. That's not what the body is designed to feel. You know, for eternity, that is, right? Definitely, yes, you can like feel bliss and, you know, put meaning to whatever bliss is for you. You can feel that shit. You ask people, you know what I'm saying, some people like, yo, what's the absolute feeling of bliss? I'll tell you, it's a feeling of sex, you know, when you bust a nut. To somebody else, it's like, you know, following your religious text and, you know, yeah, like molding your life according to whatever it has for you and shit like that. You know, they can take on the world, you know, but for as long as that's also happening, like day is like, you know, they're happy, right? But forever, you get where I'm going with this. So it's like, yeah, let's like thinking about it deeply. That's where I'd be going with like this whole thing of like trying to feel bliss forever. You know what I'm saying? Trying to be in a state of euphoria forever. The same way that probably the, you know, texts promise, you know, as an afterlife.
As you might expect, the rat just sat there pressing the button over and over until it died. But I'm not
until it just sat there doing nothing else, just pressing the button. You know what I'm saying? For the feeling of bliss constantly. Just nothing else. Cause you know what I'm saying? The rat's body needs nutrients to go on. It didn't eat, it just kept pressing the thing. You know what I'm saying? It didn't like, you know, hustle for the energy, like, you know, do what it has to do to give its body the energy to sustain itself. So obviously it's gonna die.
a rat. I'm a human. And it might sound arrogant, but I somehow feel like I'm above that kind of thing. I'd probably really enjoy the intense bliss for the first few thousand years.
Yeah.
But then I'd start to think to myself, is this all there is? Okay, so here's a heaven I think would actually be desirable. You can hang out there as long as you want, but the door is open. Once you're satisfied with all the things you've done, you can peace out. This scenario seems pretty good. The problem is, we don't really know which of these situations heaven would actually be, and some of these cases are just totally made up to fix the boredom problem. I think the standard understanding of heaven is just that you live forever in a perfect place.
Nice.
If that's the type of heaven we're working with, I'm not a huge fan.
Oh shit.
C tier.
Oh. Even with this, same thing. Who's freaking burning for all of eternity, bro? Be real, bro. Because I'm telling you, there's gonna come a point in this eternity where you're like, bruh, is this all there is? Like, you'll be burning, right? 100 years. What the hell? Yeah, I know. suffer, you go, ah. You know what I'm saying? 100,000 years, you're like, ah. Okay. Is this it? Like, yo. Like, is this all there is? Like, you know what I'm saying? Nigga, a million years, you even know how to, you got the tactics on how to just like work through that shit. Like, yeah, I know I'm burning, bro, but like, yo, I don't know, let me just hustle a little meat, bro. Maybe I'll just like barbecue it on this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Just fry it real quick. See how that tastes. You know what I'm saying? You're not even concerned about the burning and everything. Come on, bro. You're so redundant.
Inferno, the first part of Dante's Divine Comedy.
Oh shit!
Is
I tried reading that book. Never finished it though. Shit.
Probably the most famous depiction of hell. It has 9 circles, filled with horrible punishments like boiling in pools of blood or being submerged in frozen lakes.
Nice.
Even Buddhism has different types of hells with intricate punishments, like the realm of the hungry ghosts.
Right.
There are a lot of different depictions of what hell would actually be like, so I won't spend too much time on the details here.
Nice.
At least in the biblical tradition, it's important to understand that hell is a very complicated issue.
Okay.
From what I gather, a lot of the colloquial understanding of hell comes from medieval art and literature, and isn't actually directly based on anything the Bible says.
What is it based on?
You ever sat down and read this thing? Technically, we're not allowed to go to the bathroom.
Some people believe that when the Bible says eternal fire, it might not necessarily mean eternal torment.
Okay.
It could be that you had a soul, but it gets destroyed if you're a sinner. That would make this situation similar to nothingness.
Like, what does the destroying mean in this context, right?
You don't experience suffering for eternity. You're just denied entry into the afterlife. But for this video, I'll consider the most common interpretation of hell, some kind of eternal suffering. If that's hell, I don't think my placement here will be particularly surprising. It's safe to say that suffering is bad. It's like burning my hand on a hot stove, like I mentioned earlier. We have an immediate, absolute aversion to the conscious experience of suffering.
Yeah.
It's a fundamentally negative state of being. And not only does suffering suck, but our damnation would, in fact, be eternal. When I talked about heaven, I came to the conclusion that immortality itself comes with downsides, even if you're free to do whatever you want, or experience intense bliss. Here, all the bad things about eternity are combined with a constant state of suffering. Bottom tier.
Damn. Becoming a ghost?
Ghosts, apparitions, phantoms, specters, spirits.
Ghouls. Son of a bitch.
Surprisingly, something like 18% of Americans believe they've had an encounter with a ghost.
For real?
If you were a ghost, you would be condemned to exist in the realm of the living. No clipping through surfaces, and witnessing your loved ones going through their lives.
Yeah.
Maybe this is some kind of limbo state before you go to some afterlife.
Maybe.
But for now, we'll just consider the ghost life. The only way you can communicate with people is with a Ouija board, which, by the way, is
Wait, okay, look, I'm not gonna lie. Let me just tell you this one thing. Go on real quick, right? Like, when it comes to a ghost, right? A ghost. Is that what I'm saying? So, for me, a ghost, you know what I mean? It's like a shell of a body without the soul in it. So, for me, an NPC can be a ghost. Is that what I'm saying? An NPC can be a ghost. Somebody that has no, like, that adopts people, like other people's character, like as in mannerisms, and you depend on being like somebody else so bad. You understand what I mean? You literally become a ghost. Like, you're lost in terms of your own journey. You cannot even tap into your own inner world, so to speak, and work with that. Every time that happens, it's a never-ending cycle of just discomfort. Let me put it like that, right? You look into your inner world, it's nothing but, you know, the damage that you went through. Nothing but the pressures that you have to carry. You know what I'm saying? Difficult questions. And guess what? Everybody has these kind of things going on inside of them, right? So by default, bro, like, people do inherit, this is according to me now, these ghosts, aka I wouldn't say a demon is a ghost, right? I'd say that. Hold on. Let me. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the demon talk, let me leave that for another kind of time. Okay, the ghost is when, you know what I mean, you actually refuse to look at that inner world, work with it, and become your like not higher self. That's a fucking corny term. Like a kind of self that understands what's going on with you better, like with your soul, with what makes you tick. You understand what I'm saying? Like you tap in better when you face these kind of these patterns, man, psychological patterns, habits, things that have you hooked and addicted to some shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just in shallow terms. You know what I mean? Just putting it on the, like, as per on the surface type shit. You know what I mean? This shit can get deep. You feel me? So now, but the more you refuse to do that, you end up developing the mind of you know, what's being done on earth. You feel what I'm saying? So whatever environment that you're a part of, you're gonna emulate. It's gonna be easy for you to emulate whatever is going on in your external environment. So the friends that you keep, you know what I'm saying, you're always gonna follow suit. You feel what I mean? And what, like, you get, yeah, I don't want to get too deep, because now this shoe is gonna fit for a lot of y'all, and I don't want it to become personally about, you know what I mean? So, you know, you adopting characteristics that you believe are of a morally high ground, you know what I'm saying? But you see that done from another person's perspective. You don't know that perspective. You don't know that person's perspectives on, well, their history, their perspectives on religion, education. You're just adopting characteristics and mannerisms, thinking it's the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the time, it's the kind of things that you try and do, and then it just backfires, you know, and then it just goes the wrong way. That's how you know you're actually a ghost, bro. You actually don't utilize your own mind, your own visions. You're not a visionary at that point. You understand what I'm saying? That's what a ghost is. And by the time, I feel like you adopting the characteristics of a ghost, and that having happened for like your whole life, right? That's the afterlife that you're adopting. I don't know if y'all get me. I told you this shit it does really get deep like that. Like in terms of just my POV about it. You know what I'm saying? And then now when we talking demons, right? Like demons is really, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's the kind of things that you have to face, just like how I said, you know what I mean? They're the things that you gotta face to, you know, because, okay, you face an enemy, right? So to speak, an enemy. What do I mean by an enemy? An enemy is like whatever aspect to yourself that makes you resist reality, and how reality can make you a better person. So aka your traumas of the past. You know what I'm saying? You have to use the shell of the human, the brain, the organs, the body, the mind, right? To kind of just like dive deep into the experiences, you know, that created the traumas. So the trauma itself, right? The insecurity itself, the demon itself. You know what I mean? That sharpens your shell, your body. You know what I mean? For you to utilize it to actually understand yourself better. You know what I mean? See where your strengths, weaknesses lies, your boundaries, your limitations, where those lie. You know what I'm saying? Instead of looking at your external environment being like, oh, I want to be like that person, oh, you know, pick me type shit, type talk. Oh, I told you I was gonna get deep. Fuck yeah, I told you I was gonna get deep. I told you it could get deep, but then, you know what I'm saying, you asked me like what I fucking mean, bro. Asked me. So, you know, leave your perspective in the chat, in the comments, whatever the case. Understand what I'm saying? Damn, like, I hope.
Created by Hasbro.
Fuck.
The same company that makes Monopoly and Connect 4.
For real?
Your only line of communication to your relatives is through...
Oh yeah, shit, we're still being ghosts, right? This is, when, you know, if you become a ghost. This whole thing.
13-year-olds trying to induce a paranormal experience at 3 a.m. I feel like that would get pretty frustrating. Maybe you'd be condemned to haunt a particular location for some reason.
Yep.
Maybe you were murdered in a particular house.
Maybe.
And now you have to spend eternity shifting around items on the counter to freak out whoever happens to live in that house in the future. Maybe some guy is being too much of a greedy capitalist on Christmas, and you need to visit him one night and show him visions, teaching him about the errors of his ways, and inspiring him to care more for others during the holiday season. In any of these cases, I think this would be a pretty bad existence. The stuff you're able to do would get really boring really quick.
Yeah.
It's not quite as bad as hell with the whole eternal suffering thing, but I'll still put it in bottom tier.
Bottom tier. Bottom tier for the ghostly. You know, and like, come on, bro. Like, let's not act like we don't, you know, hear the stories of like where people, after somebody passes on and shit, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, nah, their soul, you know, still lingers on there and blah, blah, blah. You know, we got to do these ceremonies to make sure that they leave in peace. Else they're not going to leave. And then it's like, well, do they want to stay there for all eternity? Right? Because, okay, they might be like, yo, yeah, nah, this is my last memory. Because I feel like, okay, I might be understanding that version of it wrong. But I feel like they, you know, people that believe it that way come from an angle where it's like that's where their last memory was, right? That's where their last experience was at. So now, you know, they probably just gonna be like lost in that position for like yo, trust me, they'll get bored of being there that whole time. Okay, you know what? I don't know. Let me leave it alone, man. You know what? Matter of fact, quick word from our sponsor, bro. Before y'all look at me in a strange ass way. Hold on.
You take some fuck away a feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either. Accept yourself awareness, my body, mind and my gazi. I'm feeling tired. You know, God on me. Still got in the flesh, put bullshit to rest. I'm not holding my breath. Nah, yeah. Still get out of line, but no judgment, no time. Cause to myself I'm kind. I bring my Venus, please. She knows she keep on juicing, I'll drink her to sleep. Cool wine, spirit awakening up inside me. Days of our life, so overrated. Ego mask of the mind. I swear I feel for us all. You back the layers, see me preach my own prayer. Scared but seek me no savior. I'm the only vessel that I need. Now walking with the Nina, I do think that karma's a great teacher. Cause what you get, you take, so fuck away a feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either. Self-awareness, my body, mind and my gazi. I'm feeling tired. You know, body, self-awareness, my body, mind and my gazi. I'm feeling tired. You know, body on me.
Now, to all y'all subscribers of the Afterlife Theory, right? I feel like this one needs all of y'all coming closer to the screen right quick. Y'all let me know what you actually think happens after somebody dies. You know what I'm saying? It's a very interesting topic that I would grapple with from time to time. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when I'm bored, just to see if I can come up with a interesting theory that'll have me, I don't know, feeling a little confident about the afterlife. Sometimes I just go back and forth, on the idea based off of just what to choose to be afraid of, or what to choose not to be afraid of. What to establish as real, and what to dismiss. You feel what I'm saying? It's a deep layered topic, and I'm interested to get into it. Right? Let's do it.
Answer that I need. Now walking with the Nina. I do think that karma's a great teacher. Cause what you get, you take so fuck away a feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either. I guess I'm awareness my body. See me breach my own prayer. Scared but seek me no savior. I'm the only vessel that I need. Now walking with the Nina. I do think that karma's a great teacher. Cause what you get, you take so fuck away a feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either. I guess I'm awareness my body. Mind and my gazi. I'm very tired. Still got in the flesh, put bullshit to rest. Not holding my breath. Nah, yeah. Still get out of line, but no judgment, no time. Cause to myself I'm kind. Bring my Venus, please. She knows she keep on juicing, I'll drink her.
What in tarnation? It's time to talk about reincarnation. Incarnation.
Yo, the freaking that mute demon got me again, ladies and gentlemen. Yo, just a quick little rundown about what I was saying, yo, before this actually makes it awkward for both me and y'all, right? So yeah, this is a part two. The afterlife tier list, right? Afterlife theories. Which ones are the best, which ones are the worst, according to my boy Duncan Clark right here, right? That's the channel that we're looking at. And yeah, we done went through heaven, we done went through hell as an afterlife, we done went through being a ghost. That's all the shit that I was saying as I was muted. We done went through being a ghost, yeah, and now reincarnation, right?
More like the United States of America, with their lack of walkable cities and reliance on the automobile.
Yep.
Incarnation.
Come on, bro. What are we talking about?
Reincarnation is when you die and then start a new life in a different body, repeating the cycle of life and death for eternity. This idea is very, very old, and there are a lot of different takes on how exactly it might work. According to the Hindu tradition, we all have souls that get passed along through lifetimes, which explains how there's continuity from one life to the next. In very early Hindu culture, there was an almost Christian understanding of an afterlife, with a heaven and a hell. Depending on how good of a person you are in life, you end up in one of those places. But some people thought that this was too black and white. People aren't either good or bad as a whole. It's a gradation. Being good and being evil has levels to it. If you're like a slightly alright person, you'll end up in heaven with Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi. But if you're a bit of a bad dude, you'll end up in hell with Hitler.
You're baddie.
This doesn't really seem fair, but reincarnation kind of fixes this. You end up reincarnating into a new existence, directly proportional to how good you are.
Damn.
If you're a decent enough guy, you'll get a decent reincarnation.
Yep.
But if you're really min-maxing your karma, you'll get a pretty sweet reincarnation. But for the Buddhists, there isn't actually anything concrete like a soul that's carrying over.
What is there?
Buddhism has the famous teaching of no self, or anatman, which is the idea that nothing in the world has any kind of permanent essence to it, including our personhood.
Yep.
For the Buddhists, what we think is our self is composed of the 5 aggregates.
What's that?
Form, the body, perception, consciousness, feeling, and fabrication. These structures are impermanent, but in the cycle of existence, that's what's being carried over into the next life. You can think of it kind of like the band King Crimson. Over the years, a lot of the members have left the band, and new ones have joined. After a few years, none of the founding members were there anymore. It's all new people, but it's still King Crimson.
Yeah, it's actually like the phase thing, right? When we're talking about the Phase clan, like the Phase clan has just dismantled, we know that. But Phase might just pop back up. That's the streaming collective. You know, if you didn't know, do your homework. It like in the Phase that just dismantled right now, it wasn't the same Phase that was, you know, there from the day of inception. Feel me?
This is what the mind is like in Buddhism. There's no tangible core or identity to it, because it's constantly changing over time. Another example is the ship of Theseus. Imagine a ship. After a while, some of the boards start getting a bit weak, so they're replaced with new ones. New screws, new sails, everything. Eventually, every single component of the ship has been swapped out, but there's still continuity there. Ultimately, through extensive meditation and contemplation, you can achieve enlightenment, which frees you from this cycle of life and death, and you achieve nirvana. Some ancient Greek philosophers also believed in a kind of reincarnation, but they called it metempsychosis, coming from meta, to change, and empsychon, putting a soul into. Pythagoras is probably the most famous guy from this tradition that seemed to believe in it. There was an anecdote about a puppy being beaten, and Pythagoras jumped in to stop it. He argued that when he heard the dog yelping, he recognized the soul of one of his friends. So would reincarnation be desirable? Well, for me, it kind of solves both the problems of nothingness and immortality. When you die, your conscious experience doesn't cease to exist, so there's no deprivation of experience into the future. And it also wouldn't exactly get boring. Every new life presents you with a new mode of experience, new friends, new things to do.
But then now do you keep the same memory from that previous form that you had taken?
Maybe in my next life I'll be an orangutan running around. Or maybe I'll be a famous musician. Who knows? And if getting reincarnated isn't really your bag, you can just get enlightened and break from the cycle. This all seems pretty good. A tier.
A tier. Infinite loop? Which one is that one? I don't know that one.
You die, and then immediately begin the same life again. Everything is exactly the same. You make all the same decisions. You make all the same mistakes. You work the same job. You have the same friends. And you die in the exact same way. Just to do it all over again for eternity.
Oh shit.
Who the hell conceptualizes things that way?
Here we go again.
No way.
This is the famous philosophical
That's unhealthy. Can't be looking at shit that way, bro.
idea of eternal return, or eternal recurrence. It started with the Stoics, who you might be familiar with from all the self-help stuff on the internet. But it really took off when Nietzsche brought it up.
Nietzsche?
His first reference
You're the one that brought it up, man? What's up with that?
to it is a thought experiment in the gay science. It goes like this. One day, a demon visits you and says,
"Hey man, this life you're living right now, you're gonna live this same life an infinite amount of times, and there won't be anything new.
No.
would you hate this, or would you accept it?" He expanded on this some more, and thus spoke Zarathustra.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. This one is like, it's like those people that keep saying, or maybe let's say you're talking, you're having a conversation, right? You're like, yo, if I had another chance to do that again, like, no, stop. It's no doing shit again. Like, I don't subscribe to that at all. Like, I feel like good or bad experiences, right? I wouldn't want to live the same experiences, bro. I feel like you live it the one time. Because think about it, bro. You're sucking the excitement out of it. You want to go relive the same experiences over and over again. It's like that whole thing where heaven, right? When we was breaking down the concept of heaven, you know, no one mind is meant to conceptualize heaven in the fact that, yo, for eternity you're gonna be having these moments of bliss and da da da. Bro, for as long as, you know, you are created the way you are, you're gonna experience moments of redundancy. It's gonna get redundant. It's gonna get boring at a certain point. So you're gonna squeeze that blissfulness out of it at a point. You know what I'm saying? So even you know, with you trying to relive moments over and over and over and over and over again, it's like you're gonna suck that excitement out of it. You're gonna suck that thing out of it. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't really like, it doesn't make sense for me to be like, yo, oh man, I wish I'd go back to that time and relive that moment. It's like, no, it's not happening. Flipped, gone. So nah. The infinite loop one is nope.
Zarathustra. The main character
I don't
starts
see
off
it.
pretty terrified at the prospect of eternal recurrence, but eventually they get over it and end up embracing it. Now it's interesting to note that Nietzsche doesn't actually come out and say that he believes this is the case.
What
He's
does he
not
say?
making any concrete metaphysical claim.
What he's saying?
He's just throwing it out there as a possibility.
Okay.
What this thought experiment is doing is more concerned with your reaction to that possibility. If it terrifies you, you probably aren't living the kind of life you actually want to live. But if
It's not about terrifying somebody, bro. It's not about terrifying somebody. It's about like thinking logically about things, bro. You know what I'm saying? Especially now. Okay, let me not factor in the whole soul reincarnating thing. Like that's you reincarnating. But if we talking facts, you creating a whole eternal loop, you reincarnating, but into the same body, for the same circumstances, same scenarios, right? Like that's what's happening. You know? So you're gonna be in the same body, the same everything, right? Cool. You loved your life. You know what I'm saying? Every moment was pure bliss and joy. I'm saying, bro, go eat a freaking, I don't know, what's your favorite thing? A cheesecake. I don't know, chocolate cake, whatever. Eat that shit every day, 365 days a year, nigga, and tell me you feel the same about that thing, you know, 2 years from now. 2 years is even a lot, bro. 6 to 8 months, nigga, 4 months, 4 weeks, boy. I'm talking about anytime you want to eat something, eat your most favorite thing, right? Tell me how you feel about it, you know, a while from now. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that you're gonna suck that beauty that, you know, you once desired about it. You sucking that shit out of that. Feel me? That's the point. That's the angle I'm getting to it at. Is that it's gonna feel redundant. It's gonna be boring after some time. And no matter how you want to spin it, you know, tell me that, you know, it's because I don't love my life. You know what I mean? Like, okay, it is what it is. Because now think about it. Even those that don't love their lives, bro, this could be beneficial then for them, because they're gonna go through those same traumatic experiences only to come back and like realize, yo, this ain't about shit though. But then think about it though. If, oh my god, okay, let's say the memory doesn't develop. Like, here's what I think is bogus about this one, right? Is the fact that for you to go through experiences over and over again, we can either look at it from an angle where it's like your mind ends up catching on to the whole experiential thing, where it's like, no, I've been here before. If that's the case, right? If we taking the angle of your mind does develop and it catches on and it learns, you going through, you know, a negative life, a life that you don't like your life, right? That's what it's claiming. You going through a life that you don't like, you're gonna end up seeing the bogusness, the redundancy in you, you know, fearing these experiences or letting them traumatize you. Like, after a while, you're just gonna be like, nah, I've been through this, fuck it, right? So now that's freeing, that's liberating, right? So if I'm only saying this because I'm not enjoying my life, you know, it has, like, the eternal loop has to make me better then, because it's gonna end up free. But then now, let's say we take the angle of we don't actually develop, like we don't grow, like the soul just stays there, and you know, the same reaction of you being traumatized the first time is the exact reaction you're gonna give after being traumatized the 10 millionth time, right? Let's say it's like that, and the mind, really, the memory is really just caught up in this whole loop where, you know, every experience is the same, and meaning then there's no loop, because it's only one thing, and that's the only thing. Because by the time we loop back to the experience again, it's like I'm experiencing it for the first time. So it's like every time is the first time, so it's only one time to it. So is it really a loop? Right? if we are developing, if the mind can catch on to the fact that, like deja vu, right? Deja vu disproves this shit. Because if I can feel, no, I've been here before, then my mind is surely developing and it's getting smarter. And I'm eventually gonna be desensitized to the negative parts of my life. If I hate my life, if I love my life, it's gonna be redundant. It's gonna squeeze out the excitement out of life because I keep on experiencing that same bliss. And again, if my mind catches on to the fact that, hey, I've been here before, it's just gonna feel numb. I'm just gonna be desensitized to that happiness. I will want to experience something else. And then by default, as a consequence, I will change this loop. So what the fuck loop are we talking about? You understand what I'm saying? My apologies if I lost you. So there's that. But then that other angle where our minds, they don't develop. They don't catch on to the shit. They don't. Every time I experience the loop again, it's like the first time that cheesecake tastes that same way that it tasted the first time, you know, when I did it. Now it might be the millionth time, but it still tastes like the first time. Meaning every time is the first time, actually. Meaning then there is no loop because it's nothing but first time. Every time. Let me get off of this, because now I'm gonna talk in a circle and it's gonna piss me off.
If you embrace it, you're probably on the right track. But what if this is actually the case? When you die, everything resets back to when you were first born, and you go through all the same experiences again. For me personally, this seems pretty good. At least so far, my life has been pretty enjoyable.
It doesn't make sense. Because it's nothing but the first time every time. Meaning there is no different time. There is no different experience. You experience the same thing. So it's either, you know what I'm saying?
I had a happy childhood, and my early adult life has been interesting and rewarding so far. Assuming everything goes according to plan, and my life continues to be fairly good on average, I think I would be content living this life over and over again for eternity. I guess I passed Nietzsche's test. It might sound a little depressing to know that this life is all there is, but every time I live my life, it feels like it's the first time. Even if I've already had all these experiences in the exact same way, an infinite amount of times already, it still feels like the first time.
That's what I'm saying. Then what's the point of keeping the idea that there's an infinite times if this first time is all that you feel? It's all that you're enjoying. It's all that you're suffering. It's all, like, you know what I mean? Then it's nothing but one time. That's all we have.
All my experiences,
and it's not necessarily depressing if you ask me. Not necessarily,
feel fresh and new. But with that being said, I have a pretty fortunate life, to the point that I'm basically as lucky as you can get. I had good life RNG. Nice. I'm a white straight man from Canada with enough money to live comfortably.
Beautiful.
I don't face any kind of oppression. I don't have any chronic pain.
That's right.
I have great friends and a loving family.
Nice.
But unfortunately, a lot of people aren't so lucky. If eternal recurrence is true, everyone who has ever suffered would have to live through that for eternity. Everyone who died in a famine, everyone who died in a war, would have to experience that over and over forever. If we're extending this to non-human animals too, every single factory...
I'm telling you, they're gonna get desensitized to that shit. They're gonna wake up, they're gonna make different decisions. Meaning they're not gonna stick to that same loop.
Farmed cow would have to live through that horrible existence for eternity.
This one is a horrible one. Like, this one deserves to be at the bottom tier, dog.
Every instance of suffering gets magnified an infinite amount of times. The same is true of positive experiences. You will have your first kiss an infinite amount of times. But the suffering makes it seem like that might not be 100% worthwhile. If I was ranking this based solely on my own experience, I would put this pretty high. But because of all the conscious suffering, I'll compromise and stick it in B.
It was supposed to be in D, man. D, bro. Simulation.
The simulation argument is really big among Silicon Valley guys pretending to be philosophers.
Let's talk about it.
But the actual simulation argument was laid out by a genuine philosopher, Nick Bostrom. The argument goes like this. He lays out 3 possible scenarios. In scenario 1, Humans and other civilizations like ours probably won't advance technology far enough to create simulated realities, or creating simulated realities is impossible in the first place. In the second scenario, creating simulated realities is possible, but if a civilization creates one, it won't make a lot of them, because it requires too much processing power, or there's some other kind of limitation. And finally, creating simulated realities is possible, and there's no limit on how many get produced. These simulations would be entirely indistinguishable from ordinary reality. If we're in this scenario, we're almost certainly living in a simulated reality right now. The sheer number of simulated realities would outnumber actual reality by so much that the probability that we're in actual reality would be very close to zero.
Exactly.
Now, Bostrom's argument makes a lot of pretty hefty assumptions.
What is that?
The first one is that mental states don't depend on their physical instantiation. Our current conscious experience happens to emerge from biological neural networks in our brain. But according to this view, this doesn't have to be the case. If we could create a silicon processor in a computer with the exact same neural network, the same conscious experience would arise.
Whoa,
Consciousness is a matter of information processing. There's nothing more going on. This is known as substrate independence. To be clear, this is a pretty controversial take. A lot of philosophers of mind believe that consciousness isn't reducible to computation. Some believe that consciousness does require a specific kind of substance for it to emerge, like a brain. But for the purposes of this argument, we'll assume substrate independence for consciousness. Bostrom also spends some time in his paper laying out some concrete numbers, showing how the simulation might be done. If it does end up being possible, it will be really hard. But if we assume that technology continues to progress and accelerate, it doesn't really matter how long it takes. Based on how much computing power it takes to replicate a single piece of neural tissue, we would need a computer that could perform about 10 to the 14 operations per second to replicate a human brain. Other estimates sit a bit higher, at 10 to the 16 or 10 to the 17. We'd have to generate some kind of environment for that brain too, and this really depends on how thorough we are with environmental simulation. At a minimum, we'd have to replicate the ordinary interactions humans might have with each other, or their environment. We couldn't program every single subatomic particle in the universe, so a lot of stuff would have to be left unrendered until a human came by to observe it. Based on all of this, along with a hypothetical computer design that could perform 10 to the 42 operations per second, Bostrom figures that civilizations in the distant future could indeed create simulations. There's nothing in principle preventing this from being possible. Now, for the record, I'm not personally sold on the simulation argument. I'm not sure substrate independence is true. And I also don't know that it's a guarantee that civilization will continue developing forever. With climate change, resource depletion, and nuclear war, it's totally possible that we'll end up destroying ourselves. This might be thousands of years down the line, but we need a lot of time to make a simulation. This would also explain why we haven't encountered any alien civilizations. It could be that civilizations tend to self-destruct. And even if we make it that far, and substrate independence is true, our future descendants might not even want to make simulations in the first place. Should we run a simulation of all the suffering in the world, if the beings in there have conscious experience just like us? If we created ancestor simulations of our whole civilization, we would be simulating famines, wars, and diseases as well. But for our purposes here, my take doesn't really matter. If we are in a simulation right now, what happens when we die? Maybe it's like the episode of Rick and Morty, where they
Morty. Those are the only guys that I was like thinking about the whole time when you think we were talking about simulation, bro.
Hey Roy. In this episode, Morty straps into a virtual reality game called Roy, where he lives through the entire life of a man named Roy. He lives through childhood, attends school, becomes a football star, gets married, has a child, spends years working at a carpet store, is diagnosed with cancer, beats the cancer, and then dies in an accident. He's then presented with a game over screen, and wakes up again as Morty. He's obviously confused because he just spent 55 years living this virtual life, only to realize that it was all a game. In a Reddit thread about simulation and death, one smug Redditor put it this way: "We take our VR headset off and go, wow, that was so real. Take a piss."
But who says that, and who's the one saying that? Who's the one going to take the piss after taking the VR set off, right? Like, who is that? And are they in the same body that I'm in as well? You know what I mean? Well, probably not, because if I'm in the simulation, as per the example from Rick and Morty, you know what I mean? To live another man's life and, you know, get diagnosed with cancer, only just to, you know, take off the VR as Morty. But then if Morty is your real life, then whose VR are you? Being that real life, quote unquote.
And then put the VR headset back on, ready to play a new character.
Oh.
This VR game possibility is kinda similar to reincarnation at first glance. You get to live through a whole life, and then swap it out for a new one when you're done.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly the same, because it's a solipsistic existence.
Yeah.
None of the people you encounter in the simulation are real.
Yeah.
They're just parts of the simulation, like NPCs in a video game. All the friends and connections you make are illusions. This kinda sucks. Maybe it's like the Matrix, where we wake up and realize we're just being harvested for our energy or something. At least everyone in the simulation is still an instantiation of a real person, so all the connections you make are sort of real. But I think this case is strictly bad. At the level of ultimate reality, you're just being distracted with this fake world so that you can be enslaved.
Nice.
Okay, well, maybe we're all just a tiny portion of some kind of super AI god.
Maybe.
The AI wanted to figure out how it was created, so it started running simulations of human civilization in the lead up to technological singularity. When we die, we just merge back into the AI god consciousness.
Oh no.
And finally, maybe it's just
this one is fucking me up right now as I'm watching it. Yo! This one is crazy. This one is dangerous, dog. This one is dangerous, bro. Come on, bro. Damn.
the same as nothingness. Once our lifetime
Why does it make so much sense, dog? Yo.
in the ancestor simulation is over, your consciousness ceases to exist. None of these possibilities seem desirable to me, and every single one of them seems to diminish the value of our world pretty considerably.
Right.
It would all just be imitations of people who supposedly existed before the singularity happened. I'll put simulation in C tier.
Yeah, that one fucked me up, I ain't gonna lie. One with everything.
There's
going back to one with everything. Okay, let's
an
hear
old
it.
joke that goes something like this.
What?
The Dalai Lama walks up to a hot dog stand, and he says to the man running the stand, "Hey, make me one with everything." The idea that we're all one consciousness has the connotation of being a bit hippy-dippy. It's often associated with meditation practice, or other techniques that supposedly reveal this truth. But this idea is actually pretty old. It's part of the system of reincarnation in some schools of Hinduism, where deep down we're all God or Krishna. It also emerged a few times in the Western intellectual tradition.
Right.
Schopenhauer talked about this kind of thing a lot, for example. And some pretty famous physicists have described similar things, including Erwin Schrödinger,
What'd he
Freeman
say?
Dyson,
What'd he
and
say?
even Einstein.
What did he say?
Sometimes this idea is called open individualism, which is a
Okay.
term coined by Daniel Kolak. There isn't really much academic philosophy on the subject, but there are a number of books about it, and it actually has a pretty sizable community on the internet. In this view, there are basically three ways you can look at personal identity. First is closed individualism. You start existing when you're born, and you stop existing when you die.
Yep.
Everyone is a separate observer that exists moment to moment.
Right.
This is how most people intuitively think about it. Next, there's empty individualism.
What does that mean?
Everyone has had the experience of trying to fall asleep, and suddenly, a cringy memory from your teenage years pops up. You're ashamed. You're embarrassed. What could you have possibly been thinking?
Yeah, this is funny. My fault.
It almost seems as if someone else had done it, but perhaps it was someone else. The you of the past. In every single moment, we're a different person. This is empty individualism. In this view, you're just a little dot on the timeline of your life.
Yep.
Each moment you exist is a different, unique entity
What
that's
else?
constantly changing over time. We are just a moment of experience. And finally, there's open individualism. You are every moment of experience on everyone's timeline. The fact that some other entity is instantiating consciousness makes them identical to you. This might seem a little wacky at first, but stick with me here. Let's go back to closed individualism for a second. You're the same person from birth to death, but what's holding it all together? Maybe it's memory. I remember some of the stuff I did when I was 10 years old. My memory of who I used to be is the continuity between all the moments of my life. But this doesn't really work. We don't remember everything. That's not how memory works. I don't remember what I had for breakfast on New Year's Day of 2013. And there are also false memories. People can be convinced of experiences that they never actually had.
Like as in they can be hypnotized to believe some shit?
Okay, so memory's out. Well, what about my body? I've had the same body since the time I was born.
Yep.
But once again, this doesn't really work. The cells that make us up are constantly changing over time, like a ship of Theseus. Same goes for the brain. So all of this kind of hurts closed individualism. We can't seem to point to anything that ties it all together. So should we opt for empty individualism? Well, maybe not.
Nah, this individualism one. What is it? The all in one? I mean, one with everything? Yeah.
Even though there doesn't seem to be anything tying it all together, it definitely seems like there's continuity in our experience. But how can we get over the weirdness of open individualism? Well, think about your conscious experience for a second.
Okay.
From our perspective, there's basically no gaps in our experience. We're unconscious all the time when we sleep, but there doesn't seem to be any transitionary nothingness in between. It's almost an instantaneous change from falling asleep to waking up.
Bro.
When I got my wisdom teeth removed, I remember laughing from the nitrous oxide as the surgeon prepared the equipment. And then, in the next moment, I was sitting in the recovery room. It was as if no time had passed.
Whoa, for real? You had that? Bro, I had to sit through all that pain. They numbed me out. You know, they did the numbing thing. I had 4 teeth removed, by the way. Just so that, you know, the braces can do whatever they were supposed to do. You know, give space for the shifting and everything. Like, yeah, my teeth was fucked. My teeth was cooked. They still are a little bit if you do a little bit of homework, but yo, you don't have to say it. If you've seen it, you've seen it. Keep it moving. Watch out. Right? So I had that happen, but like, yo, they didn't like take me out. I wish they could have done that. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a seamless transition. This continuity lasts from our first experiences as children until the instant we die. And importantly, from our center of awareness, this block of experience doesn't have a beginning or end. We just kind of find ourselves in the world, as if we've always been here.
Yeah.
Objectively, we weren't always here, but it feels like this awareness is a constant, because it's all we are. The only stable thing about me is my immediate conscious experience. It's the only thing I can really point to and say, that's me. Because my body, my memories, and everything else is constantly changing.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker.
Where is it?
That immediate conscious experience is the same thing that other people have to point to. What you call I is the same thing that I call I. Now, with all that being said, I'm not totally sold on open individualism. But once again, let's just roll with it. Let's say we are all the same person. We're an identical subject of experience, but we're just different parts of it.
Right.
So what does this say about death? Well, one suggestion might be that when we die, the illusion ends. As MC Ride once said, "My experience is a momentary lapse of reason." Our identification with ourselves as one particular human stops, and we return to the ocean of being. But what would this be like? Would we experience all conscious experiences that all beings are having simultaneously?
Good question.
Almost like you're sitting in front of a bunch of screens, watching every single experience play out. This is a pretty tricky thing to wrap your head around. And it's unclear whether this state of being would be positive, negative, or neutral. But you might also consider the fact that right now, you're only one instantiation of consciousness. Maybe instead of returning to some default, where you're everything at once, you cycle through every instance of consciousness. This picture might look something like the short story The Egg by Andrew Weir. In this story, the main character, you, die in a car crash. You meet God, who explains that you've already reincarnated loads of times before. In your next incarnation, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. In fact, you've actually been reincarnated as every single human being who has ever lived. You were Abraham Lincoln, Adolf Hitler, and Jesus. You were also every Holocaust victim and every follower of Jesus. This whole process is meant as a kind of test. Once you've lived every single human life, you become a god just like him. The universe was created so that you understand that every time you hurt someone, you're really just hurting yourself. Every time you do something good for someone, you do it for yourself.
This one must be that everything with one. Everything as one. Right?
This picture is a lot like reincarnation, but with a few key differences. First, it seems to be human only. You won't come back as a mosquito or a lion. And secondly, it doesn't seem to be tied to any kind of karma. You'll be cycling through every single human life, so the actions you take in your current life don't really have any meaningful bearing on your next lives, aside from the fact that you'll experience the other side of every interaction. This story also has a really important ethical implication.
What's that?
It's kind of similar to the Veil of Ignorance thought experiment by John Rawls. Imagine you have no idea who you will be in society. You don't know your ethnicity, your gender, or your social status. Rawls argues that we should attempt to structure society from this perspective. Our principles should not be based on our current life and all the circumstances we happen to find ourselves in, but they should be based impartially, as if we could end up as anyone in society. The egg scenario is a lot like this because you're actually everyone. So the doctrine of do to others whatever you would like them to do to you takes on a very literal meaning because the others are also you. Now, this is a tricky one to rank. I'm not really sure what to think about returning to the ocean of being. It's hard to say what exactly that would be like. But as for the human-to-human exhaustive reincarnation idea, I think that's really great. You would quite literally get the full spectrum of human experience. Every instance of suffering, pain, joy, ecstasy, and love. I think that's easily the most interesting possible situation. S tier.
Yeah. Now, quick word from our sponsors, and yeah, we should be good.
Bring my Venus, please. She knows she keep on juicing, I'll drink her to sleep. Cool wine, spirit awakening up inside me. Days of our life, so overrated. Ego mask of the mind. I swear I feel for us all. You back the layers, see me breach my own prayers. Scared but seek me no savior. I'm the only vessel that I need. Now walking with the Nina, I do think that karma's a great teacher. Cause what you get, you take, so fuck a wet feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either.